Welcome to Caribbean Whispers by Renee. We continue today with Part 2. 3 days had passed since Elias walked Amara home through the rain. Yet neither of them could stop thinking about the other. Every morning, Amara found herself smiling before she even reached the hospital, wondering if Elias would already be sweeping the entrance or tending to the little garden outside the children's ward. And every morning, Elias quietly hoped she would be the first person to greet him. For a man who had lived more than 7 centuries, it was a feeling he had almost forgotten: hope. Queen's Harbor Hospital buzzed with its usual morning activity. Doctors hurried toward the emergency room. Visitors lined the reception desk. Orderlies wheeled patients through the corridors. Near the entrance, Elias carefully wiped rainwater from the floor after an early shower. A wealthy businessman stormed inside while talking loudly on his phone. Without looking where he was going, he bumped into Elias. The mop bucket tipped over. Water splashed across the polished tiles. "My suit!" the businessman shouted. He pointed angrily at Elias. "Do you know how much this costs?" "I'm terribly sorry, sir," Elias replied calmly as he knelt to clean the mess. The man snatched the mop from his hands and threw it across the hallway. "People like you are useless." The hospital lobby fell silent. Several visitors looked away, pretending not to notice. Amara had just stepped off the elevator. She witnessed everything. Walking straight toward the businessman, she stood beside Elias. "Sir," she said politely but firmly. He apologized. "You stay out of this." "No, I won't." Her voice remained calm. "He's doing an honest job, and he deserves the same respect you expect for yourself." The businessman scoffed. "He's only a janitor." Amara looked directly into his eyes. "And without people like him, this hospital couldn't function for a single day." A few people nearby quietly nodded. Embarrassed by the attention, the businessman muttered under his breath before walking away. Amara picked up the fallen mop and handed it back to Elias. "Are you okay?" Elias smiled gently. "I've been called worse." "You shouldn't have to be." For a brief moment, neither of them noticed everyone else. It felt as though they were the only 2 people in the hallway. Later that afternoon, Dr. Victor Hines watched the pair laughing together outside the cafeteria. Victor was one of the hospital's brightest young doctors. Confident, successful, admired by almost everyone. He had noticed Amara from her very first day. He had planned to ask her to dinner. But every chance he got, she seemed to be talking with the janitor. His colleague nudged him. "You've got competition." Victor laughed. "A janitor? Looks like she's happier talking to him than anyone else." Victor forced a smile. "I'm not worried." Still, a tiny seed of jealousy had been planted. That evening, Amara found Elias sitting alone in the hospital garden. The sunset painted the Barbados sky with brilliant shades of orange and crimson. "You always come here after work?" she asked. "It reminds me that every ending can still be beautiful." She sat beside him. "You talk like someone much older than you." He chuckled softly. "I suppose I've had plenty of time to think." Amara studied his face. "There are moments when you look young." He smiled. "And then?" "And then there are moments when your eyes look as though they've seen hundreds of lifetimes." Elias quickly looked away. "If only you knew." "What was that?" "I said sunsets make people think strange thoughts." She laughed. "They certainly do." Inside the hospital archives, Miss Iris slowly turned the pages of a weathered leather journal that had belonged to her grandfather. The brittle pages contained old Caribbean legends passed down through generations. One sketch stopped her cold. It showed a man wearing simple work clothes. Gentle eyes. Dark hair. Kind smile. The drawing looked exactly like Elias. Beneath it were the faded words. The guardian genie appears every few centuries. He never grows old. He serves instead of ruling, heals instead of conquering, and hides among ordinary people until love finds him once again. Miss Iris's hands trembled. It can't be. The journal had been written over 150 years ago. Yet the man in the drawing hadn't aged a single day. That same night, Elias walked home through the quiet streets of Bridgetown. He rented a tiny wooden house overlooking the sea. The furniture was old. The roof leaked whenever it rained. His kitchen contained little more than a kettle, a table, and 2 cups. Simple. Lonely. As he unlocked the front door, he stopped. Someone had been inside. Nothing had been stolen. Instead, a single blue feather rested on his table. His face turned pale. No, it can't be. He picked up the feather carefully. Only one being left, feathers that shimmered with blue fire. A sky djinn. An ancient hunter. One of the most feared beings in the hidden world. A folded piece of parchment lay beneath the feather. Elias opened it. The message contained only one sentence. I have finally found you. No signature. No explanation. Only those 5 words. Elias slowly closed his eyes. They're here. The next morning, Amara noticed something different. Elias looked exhausted. Dark circles rested beneath his eyes. Were you able to sleep? A little. You don't look well. I'll be fine. She reached up before thinking. Her hand gently touched his forehead. You feel cold. Time seemed to freeze. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. It was the first time anyone had touched Elias with such tenderness in centuries. His heart raced. Amara quickly pulled her hand away, suddenly realizing what she had done. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. Their eyes met. For just a second, the busy hospital disappeared around them. The world grew quiet. Then someone cleared their throat. It was Dr. Victor. Amara. She turned. The chief nurse is looking for you. Oh, thank you. She smiled at Elias before hurrying away. Victor watched her leave. Then he looked back at Elias. His polite smile vanished. I don't know what game you're playing. Elias frowned. There is no game. Victor stepped closer. People like us don't belong in the same world. Before Elias could answer, Victor walked away. Elias remained standing in the hallway. Not because Victor's words hurt, but because, deep inside, he feared they might be true. Far above Queen's Harbor Hospital, hidden beyond the clouds, a pair of glowing blue eyes watched every moment. The nurse has become his weakness. A deep voice echoed through the wind. And when the time is right, I will use her to destroy him. The following morning, Amara arrived at Queen's Harbor Hospital earlier than usual. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she remembered the previous day's conversation with Elias. More than that, she remembered the moment she had touched his forehead. There had been something strange about him. His skin had felt unusually cold, but his eyes had looked warm, almost as if he had been waiting centuries for someone to care about him. Amara shook her head. Amara, stop thinking about the janitor. She laughed quietly at herself. But deep down, she knew something had changed. Elias was no longer simply the quiet man who cleaned the hospital. He had become someone she looked forward to seeing. Someone whose smile could brighten her morning. Someone whose absence she noticed. And that frightened her. When Amara reached the hospital garden, she immediately noticed something unusual. The flowers were blooming. Not a few. All of them. The garden, which had struggled for months, looked as though it had suddenly come alive. Yellow flowers covered the bushes. Red hibiscus opened beneath the morning sun. Even a small tree that had appeared dead was covered in fresh green leaves. Amara smiled. Elias. He stepped out from behind the garden shed. Good morning. She looked around. Did you do this? Elias shrugged. I watered them. Last night. Perhaps. She laughed. You're telling me water did all this? Plants are very appreciative. Amara narrowed her eyes. You're hiding something. Elias smiled. Everyone has secrets. She looked at him. Do you? For a moment, his smile disappeared. Yes. What kind? The kind that are difficult to explain. Before she could ask another question, a voice interrupted them. Amara. She turned. It was Dr. Victor. He walked toward them carrying 2 cups of coffee. I thought you might like one. Thank you. She accepted it politely. Victor glanced at Elias. Still working on the garden? Elias nodded. Victor smiled without warmth. Good, someone has to. Amara noticed the tension. Victor, I have patients to check. She walked away. Victor watched her leave. Then he looked at Elias. You should stay away from her. Elias quietly replied. She is capable of making her own decisions. Victor stepped closer. You don't understand. No. Elias looked directly into his eyes. You don't understand. For a moment, something strange happened. Victor felt a sudden chill. He couldn't explain why. He stepped back. Elias simply returned to watering the flowers. That afternoon, Amara was called to the records room. Miss Iris had requested her. When Amara entered, the elderly woman was sitting beside a stack of old books. I've been waiting for you. Is everything okay? Miss Iris smiled. Come closer. Amara sat beside her. Miss Iris opened an ancient leather journal. I want to show you something. She carefully turned several pages. Then she stopped. Amara stared. There was an old photograph. A young man stood beside a Caribbean woman. The photograph was faded and slightly damaged. But the man's face was unmistakable. Amara's heart skipped. It was Elias. She looked closer. Elias. Miss Iris nodded. But... Amara pointed at the date written beneath the photograph. 1897. Her hands began to tremble. That can't be him. Why not? Because he looks exactly the same. Miss Iris said nothing. Amara stared at the photograph. The same eyes. The same face. The same gentle smile. Even the small scar above his eyebrow was there. Who is the woman? Miss Iris turned the page. A handwritten note appeared underneath. Her name was Amara Clarke. Amara froze. Clarke. Miss Iris nodded slowly. Your family name. Amara's heart began pounding. My family. Your great-great-grandmother. Amara stared at the photograph again. What did she have to do with Elias? Miss Iris closed the journal. That is the question you need to ask him. That evening, Amara found Elias near the hospital's old storage building. He was repairing a broken window. Elias. He turned. Amara. She held the photograph in her hand. His face changed immediately. The hammer slipped from his fingers. For several seconds, neither spoke. How do you know my great-great-grandmother? Elias looked away. You weren't supposed to find that. Then tell me the truth. I can't. Why? Because once you know everything. He stopped. Everything what? Elias looked into her eyes. Everything changes. Amara's voice softened. I'm not afraid of the truth. I am. She stepped closer. Why are you afraid? His voice trembled. Because every time I have loved someone. He swallowed. I have eventually had to watch them leave. Amara's expression softened. You loved her. Elias looked at the photograph. Yes. Amara's heart sank. You loved my great-great-grandmother more than I had ever loved anyone. Then what happened? Elias closed his eyes. Time happened. Amara sat beside him on the old wooden steps. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, she whispered. Did she know who you really were? Not at first. And when she found out, she wasn't afraid. Amara looked at him. What happened to her? Elias stared toward the sea. She grew old. His voice became quieter. While I remained the same. Amara's eyes filled with tears. That must have been painful. You don't know how painful. I think I do. He looked at her. She gently placed her hand over his. You don't have to tell me everything tonight. Elias looked down at their hands. For the first time, he allowed himself to hold hers. Neither moved. The moment was quiet, tender, and frighteningly beautiful. That night, Amara returned home with the photograph. She placed it on her bedside table. She couldn't stop thinking about Elias, about Elena, about the impossible connection between them. Then she noticed something she hadn't seen before. On the back of the photograph was a handwritten sentence. If Elias ever returns, tell him the promise was never broken. Amara's heart raced. What promise? Suddenly, the lights in her house went out. The room became completely dark. A cold breeze moved through the window. Then a woman's voice whispered from somewhere nearby. Amara. She froze. Who are you? Silence. Then the voice came again. Don't let him love you. Amara stepped backward. Why? The voice answered. Because the last woman who loved Elias was your ancestor. A pause. And she died believing he had betrayed her. Amara's eyes widened. Before she could respond, the lights suddenly returned. The room was empty. Only the old photograph remained on the table. But now, there was something different. A single tear had appeared on Elias's face in the photograph. Amara stared in horror. And somewhere across Bridgetown, Elias suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. He looked toward Amara's house. Someone has awakened the old magic. His eyes began glowing faintly gold. And they know about her. Watch out for Part 3. Thank you for joining me for another story. I hope you enjoyed the journey from beginning to end. If you did, please support the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Until we meet again, stay positive, stay inspired, and keep dreaming big. See you in the next story.